Hello, it's 6 p.m. Warsaw time, and I think we are ready to start. We'll give one more minute for people who are late to join us. But before that, let me please introduce briefly the topic. So, product ownership, how to get what you need. This is the third meeting in our webinar series. And similarly to the previous ones, this is recorded, so if somebody is willing to watch it again, somebody's late or simply couldn't make it, please don't hesitate to contact with us on our website or Facebook profile so that you can get the recording and see what we have. I'd like to encourage all participants to use chat functionality here to ask me questions. You don't need to wait for asking questions till the end of the session. However, I will reserve a couple of minutes at the end of our meeting for questions and answers. For those who are here for the first time, my name is Paweł Feliński. I'm a professional Scrum expert by Scrum.org, currently consulting a couple of companies, including Excelf, a skillful software house based in Gliwice and in Warsaw in Poland. This software house team has prepared an ebook, How to Outsource Scrum Projects. That's an ebook on outsourcing projects to Scrum teams or teams working in Scrum. And the idea for this particular series of webinars is an extension of the book. Simply wanted to explore a couple of topics that might not be covered fully by the ebook or need some more explanation at the moment. So this is the third topic, the third session of ours. 1 month ago already, we talked about benefits of outsourcing in Scrum, naming directly particular benefits, profits that we can get from outsourcing in Scrum, not in any other method of working. 2 weeks ago, I talked briefly about contracts in Scrum, not from a legal point of view because I'm not a lawyer, but from, let me say, user point of view. So what should be there in the contract, what you should expect in the contract so that it works smoothly with agile software development, particularly the Scrum method. Today, big topic. Product ownership. So who's product owner? What product ownership is about? How to get what you need, what is the difference between needs and requirements or specification that we get. So this is the third and middle point of our webinar series. 2 more topics still to come in 2 weeks, and in 1 month I will talk about them a little at the end of the session. So, if we're talking about a product owner, we may think about different aspects. It's a different approach if you have never met Scrum method, comparing to people who met it, comparing to people who actually work not in IT, but for instance in marketing or sales. Who product owner in terms of Scrum is? Let's try to explore this topic before we go deeper. So some people see a product owner as a sort of project manager. So a person that manages project from the early stage of the project till the closing of the project. A person that manages schedule, manages risk, manages resources, manages people, and so on and so on and so on. Project management area of responsibility and project managers' competence are very well described depending on the method that you use, for instance, PMI or Prince2, naming these two most popular ones. Other may say that a product owner is a sort of product manager, so a person that manages product, not the project. The difference is quite obvious. Product is the result of a project. Project is a temporary set of activities towards some result, like a service or a product, while product is the result. It can be a one-time product, so we have a one project and at the end we receive a product, or it's actually something bigger like a long product line. We have version 1, version 2, version 3, various releases and a schedule for next couple of decades. That's product management, less in IT usually, more in marketing. However, it depends on particular solution. However, I met a couple of folks, especially in the bigger corporations, that think product owner is a sort of business analyst. So it's a person that understands both the business and technology. It's a person that can translate the requirements written in a very business-specific language, a language of needs and solutions, and can translate them into engineering language, technical language, language of classes and methods even, or at least the architecture. The product owner, talking about Scrum method, is neither project manager nor the product manager, nor a business analyst. It's a person doing completely different set of activities. However, as you can see, partially related to project management, partially related to product management, and partially related to business analysis. However, there's a big area over here that actually does not belong to any of this. Let's go deeper. Many often I hear that, well, the main reason for product owner's existence in Scrum is writing specification. That's a person who writes user stories or use cases or any other kind of specification. If we go deeper into the real true understanding of the Scrum method, actually that's not true. Actually, product owner can write specification or just be a part of bigger team called the Scrum team that does it, or actually the accent on writing specification, writing user stories, preparing requirements is put more on development team, less on the product owner, depending on the particular situation. I met a couple of times also people that think that product owner is the one who manages. I wrote here manages project, but manages project, manages people, manages the product, as we said, not necessarily. Although I would actually expect a product owner to be keen on a risk management. That is a part of project management. I honestly wouldn't go into the sentence claiming that a product owner equals project manager. What is the key and essential, because this list of don'ts could be longer and longer, is that product owner maximizes business value. That's the most important, the first, some would say the only reason for existence of that role in Scrum. Maximization of business value. So we would like to understand what business value is, how to measure it, because if I want to have it maximized, I need to measure it first. Then once it's measured, perhaps we would like to track it to see whether we are there or not. However, before we go into this particular action, usually we have a greenfield situation. So a product owner comes to team and has to explain them what's going on, what the product is about. So the very first part of, or the very first tool of product owner, no matter whether for a small project or a bigger one, is the product vision. The Scrum Guide says directly, product owner has vision, most likely budget, and first of all, the product backlog, which I'm going to talk about a bit later as a tool, main tool of work. What is vision? Well, it can be something in mind of the product owners. It might be a sentence, maybe even a book explaining the product. However, there are much better and faster ways of explaining the vision to the team. Because if, as a product owner, I have the vision of my future product in my mind, that's great, but nobody can use it. If, on the other hand, I can easily show the vision of the product to my development team, then we can talk. We can talk about details. We know what to implement. There's a big difference between this kind of approach and old-fashioned waterfall approach, where instead of giving a brief big picture of a product, project manager or the owner of the project in general provided a huge specification with many details not necessarily discussed earlier with development team, and a set of hiccups later during the development phase when we realize that what was written once a couple of months ago does not necessarily fit reality or the current situation. So the vision. There are various tools of elaborating vision, of writing it down from product owner's mind. The one that I would like to show you because it works for us in Excel is called a product canvas. This is the picture by Roman Pichler. I think everybody who Google product canvas in Google browser, you will see this picture. Usually it's one page, A3 format, so something bigger than comparing to what we usually put to our printer. And we would like to have all those 6 aspects of future product written down on this paper. It can be done either by the product owner herself or by a software house together with their customer, or during a workshop where we have a customer, product owner, and for instance the entire development team, so we're doing it together. No matter when and how you do it, the key is to do it and to have it and to show it to all stakeholders of a project firstly. Secondly, to the team or teams that are developing the software. So what we have in here, name of the product, something very easy to understand, especially if we have more than one product canvas in our software development. However, if this is a bigger product, perhaps it's not the name of the product, but the name of particular release or a version. Something really worth consider, something really worth asking our customer, what's the goal? I mean, the business goal that that is put to our product. So what would you like to achieve with this product? If you cannot tell what's the goal of this this project, well, perhaps you should reconsider whether it's worth doing it at all. Once we have the goal defined, we should go to some metrics or at least measurements. So how would you like to measure that the goal has been met? I usually ask my customers, guys, imagine we are 2 or 3 years ahead from now, and this product, the entire product, is working fine. It was a great success. Tell me, how do you know it was a success? How do you know it really worked fine? Let's talk about the measures at the very beginning, so that we are not surprised later when the product is ready. Another part that is key for the second section of what I'm going to talk about is the target group. Here I'd like my customer as a product owner or my product owner as a development team to tell me what's the target group, who are those people, what are their habits, what they need. And once I have this covered, I'm going in even deeper, one level deeper, what are the types of users of my system. If it's a web app application, perhaps a user that is not registered yet, the one that is registered, another that is already signed up, a premium user maybe, if they're paid, and system admin as well, and so on and so on. Once I have this covered, I'd like to know these particular types of users, what they can do with my product. So I'm writing down here in the big picture section, what are the scenarios for particular user types, epics, use cases, groups of functionalities, whatever we use in our product or our company. Then some extra details about user experience, general design, general product functionality, visual design, anything, however, on a very, very general level, which is actually easy to put in here because the piece of paper, no bigger than A3 format, is not doesn't give us a lot of place to put a lot of details in here. About details, that's the final section. Here we're going to talk about product details for the very first, maybe first and second iteration of software development in Scrum. We would like to know what's the next step, simply, and have it defined more in details. Ramon Pichler has also provided a couple of examples, and that's the one. I don't know the name of the product, however, we have some measurements, some goals that we want to achieve. A set of measurements in here. Then we create a couple of personas per each user type. We know who's who. This is a product owner. This is HR employee. We know what are the key areas of responsibility of these people and areas of interest. Then we have a general overview of functionalities, but we have some other topics and icons here, performance requirement, but the response time is lower than 1 second. For the first iteration, we'd like to have a goal and detailed user stories. That's an example that we have in here. Once we have the vision created, we cannot talk about business value in details. That's just a vision. That's just a picture that shows what we would like to achieve and how. The next step, and that's what we usually realize together with development team, because their input here is mandatory, I'd say. So the next step is the product backlog. Product backlog is prioritized, ordered, as we say nowadays, a list of requirements called in general product backlog items. The requirements are estimated and are an input for each development team in Scrum for their sprints, for their iterations. Before we create a very long list, we would like actually to do an exercise that, at least before the project is kicked off, seems to be smarter. The exercise is called user story mapping. This picture is from Agile Consulting blog. What is that? Well, the backlog is a long list. However, before I create a list, I would like actually to talk about areas of functionalities, some high-level groups of functionalities, the very same ones that you actually have seen on the product canvas. User story map has 2 dimensions. The first one over here, horizontal one, talks about general goals, general activities, general groups of functionalities that we have to implement. And usually what we have here, point 1, 2, 3, that's what comes from our product canvas. That what comes from vision if it's elaborated correctly. It's not enough to create a product backlog, of course. Therefore, we have a group exercise within the entire Scrum team, usually at a workshop, usually with our customers, to brainstorm on details. These green parts are use cases, user stories, epics, whatever technique you use or we use during our workshops that go into details. So if I have a customer as a user type in my system and there is a goal that I would like to meet with my product, and here's the area of responsibility, entering orders, for instance, these are now detailed particular use cases or user stories that I would like here to create. When we brainstorm them, discuss what is needed, what is not, perhaps we find out something is optional here, perhaps there's a sequence here or a workflow even, but the exercise done on a wall, it's not too convenient to do it online using some electronic devices, however still feasible. Well, this exercise gives us the details. And once we have the details, we can estimate them and create a product backlog from them. We did also in our company. This picture is very dim on purpose. I would like you to see just the general picture. The yellow cards here on the top, these are epics, big pieces of functionalities. The pink ones, as you may see, are user stories. a set of them per particular area of functionality. Here we have some arrows showing us dependencies of different levels, another kind of colors showing where the items of a high risk or a low risk. And once we have the map, we can play with it, move around all the stories, reprioritize both horizontally and vertically, so that we create a product backlog finally, and can use it in the future development, starting from the very first sprint. So our product owner has her vision. We have use cases or user stories mapped accordingly. What's the next step? Well, the next step is the key part of product owner's work. Here we talk really, truly about the business value. Before I go deeper, I'd like to explain you a couple of thoughts related to business value, or a couple of concerns that some of you may have. Here's a short example. We have two vehicles here. That's a car, and that's a tractor used usually by farmers. Which one, in your opinion, has higher business value? How do you think? It depends, of course. That's the answer that I got. Well, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. On the second picture that I wanted to show, I usually put a price here. Let's imagine this car costs 20K American dollars, and the tractor as well. And here people sometimes are confused. But you hit the point. Business value is not the value. It's not the cost of the software, is not the cost of the car, because the cost of producing the car and producing the tractor might be different or the same. Business value is not the price of it. So what my software house will get from the customer. Business value is actually something that is the value for my customer. So again, coming back a couple of slides, when I have this map prepared, I'm not at this point, of course, really curious about what's the cost of implementation of each functionality on the map or in the product backlog. I'm actually very curious about what's the value that my product or particular feature, particular user story will bring to the end customer. The key responsibility of the product owner is to maximize the value. So I'm going to order the backlog in such a way that these elements that gives me the highest value should be developed in the first place. Of course, it's not always so easy. We can have technical dependencies as shown here by arrows. So even if something from, let me say, this column here is of higher importance, it's more on left, we need to work on items here on the right bottom, talking about the business value, because business value highest one is here on left top corner. But we need to start with them because via technical dependency we cannot implement this if we are not ready with this ones. However, if we're talking about pure business value area, we need to evaluate it. We need to somehow estimate it at this moment. How it is done, where various techniques are used. It can be more formal technique like Kano analysis. It could be less formal one, like the one that we usually use during our workshops, called by a feature. Whichever is used here, what is the key and important, we need to do it for all, either epics or user stories, depending on the level of details that is satisfying for us. When this is done, we can start a project, keeping in mind that there's something more during the project. And these are the other success factors. First of all, Once we estimate business value of particular features, it may turn out that the business value that we thought is there actually is not there anymore. And as an example, we thought that will be great with feature A because nobody has it, but before we implemented it, it turned out that our competitors already implemented it. They were first. So the business value of having it right now is maybe not so high as we thought initially. A good product owner should be able to make decisions independently, of course, consulting with others, but should be able to make decisions independently about changing priorities, changing orders, maybe changing backlog itself, so removing, adding, or editing requirements to it. A good product owner should also benefit from software demonstrations. We talked about it 1 month ago. One of the key benefits of software development in Agile, particularly in Scrum framework, is having it demonstrated part by part every week, 2 weeks, or 4 weeks, depending on how long your iteration is. But the demonstrations is not for fun only. It's not that I can see nice buttons, colors, windows, and so on. The demonstrations is a point when I can make a decision, coming back to the first bullet here, whether the destination that we took is correct, whether we're going the right way. Maybe we should change it. Maybe I should change the order of the backlog again. Maybe I should change the items in the backlog even. That means that Scrum forces me to plan or replan, as I tend to say, continuously, from sprint to sprint, or even more often. But that's what we have during the project when the vision, user story map, and business value initially was estimated, was prepared, was ready, and now we're working together in sprints, changing these decisions, making decisions, and changing or not the way of what we're doing and how we're doing. So, key takeaways. Active product ownership starts with vision. A good product owner is a person that elaborates the vision. Not only has it in her mind, but also elaborates, writes down, shares to stakeholders, shares with the team. The technique that I'm shown, and because we use it and it works for us, is called product canvas. The different versions of the product canvas, as well as different techniques of elaborating the vision. Still, you have to have it, simply. Then once this is done, you have to consider the business value. You have to identify it, measure it, then track it. And before you do it, it's better to go one step deeper from the vision level, at least to the level of epics group of functionalities, maybe even deeper to the level of user stories or use cases. An active product owner is also a person that makes decision. I wrote here, it's the only decision maker in the team. Why? Well, details about it during the next webinar. Simply wouldn't like to have too many fathers of the product, because the development team might be confused, as well as the product development may go into a bit weird direction if too many people are pushing in too many directions in parallel. Then evaluate as frequently as possible, which means at least once per iteration, and replan the backlog, replan the entire product management plan, or even strategy accordingly as often as possible. That's all that I prepared for today. Next steps are, in 2 weeks, we're talking about what do you pay for in Scrum. It's going to be extension of what I talked at the moment. We were here on the level of vision, on the level of user story mapping, preparing the product backlog. The essence of it, it's I'm not keen on explaining it using slides. It's better to come to us and have a workshop so that you can experience it directly. However, in 2 weeks, I'm going to talk about what happens later when we start the first sprint, second, and another. So what do you really pay for in Scrum? It's not just developing software. You're not paying here just for coding. It's smarter. I think it's more, it's wiser simply. But details in 2 weeks. Then in a month from now, Scrum from the customer's perspective, I would like to provide a general summary of the entire webinar series to give you key highlights on what Scrum is from your perspective, from the perspective of customer, not even the product owner, not even a development team or software house, but the other side of the wall that we want to crush using this method. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions or any comments, please unmute and bring them up or use the chat functionality to inform me about them. I can't see, I can't hear. Thank you very much. Then I wish you good day, morning, evening, depending on when you are. And see you in 2 weeks. Bye bye.